Someone once asked me why I don't go through point by point and rebut other people's videos, particularly conservatives. Um, well, with conservatives, it's because they're so scattershot, that to go through and point by point try and deconstruct or present a different viewpoint would be vastly time consuming. I think it's kind of a waste of time because it's scattershot, it's all superficial, and it just wouldn't provide any sort of compelling argument. I wish the conservatives would delve in depth and more detail into subjects instead of the scattershot approach, which they always do, because it's all talking points, it's propaganda, it's all superficial, it's how they see things, not explaining anything behind it, but it's very scattershot. And I found that with a lot of conservative commenters is that they don't go into depth when they discuss things. And for me, I would rather take one or two things and go into depth and understand them and resolve them and do it that way rather than to just continually go through this cycle of scattershot talking points that the conservatives go through. Okay, to me, it doesn't produce anything of value. Okay, it's just propaganda. It's just repetitive. All right, and the talking heads on TV, they can talk a mile a minute because they're very well practiced with their cycle of superficial scattershot talking points. But for me, it's not compelling. It doesn't make for compelling arguments. You get past a certain point, and you go, it's hyperbole. It's it's hyperbole. It doesn't prove a thing. All right. So I prefer to take one or two points and to go into more depth. And what I would like to talk about is Obama criticizing the Supreme Court in the State of the Union speech. He's allowed to do that. He does have freedom of speech. If corporations have freedom of speech to pour money into political campaigns, I think the President of the United States has got the freedom of speech to criticize the Supreme Court for it. Okay? And sorry you don't like it, or sorry if you think it spoils the decorum, all right? How easily offended are you? Now, come on. You lie. Talk about decorum. But I disagree that this is about freedom of speech because, number one, corporations should not be considered persons. I don't think corporations should be entitled to the rights that real people have. I think corporations and any other social organization should be subservient to individuals, subservient to the will of the people to a very large extent, okay, and not these entities that have rights, okay. I am totally against that idea. It was a bad idea from the start. This country did not start that way. It was a bad decision written by a clerk back in the 1800s that established this precedent, and that is a precedent that needs to be reversed, not 100 years of campaign restrictions for corporations. A corporation does not have a physical incarnation, does not have a body, it doesn't die, it can't be thrown in prison, it feels no pain. There's a lot of things that a corporation does not suffer as a person, okay? But a corporation has powers, it's got vast resources, it has all kinds of legal protections, liability protections. A corporation is a superhuman, okay? It is not like you or me. And a corporation, if given the rights of humans, will become more powerful and people will serve corporations. We're already seeing governments serve corporations with the amount of lobbying and the amount of money already in the process. And the revolving door between government and lobbying, it's a very incestuous relationship between corporations and government already, all right? What problem was this decision designed to solve? Certainly not that corporations don't have enough influence in the political process, okay? Because that, that is a ridiculous, ridiculous notion, all right? So I think that the first thing that should happen is that corporate personhood should be revoked. And I think if it takes an amendment to do that, fine. But theoretically, we just need to go back and show that this decision was not made by the Supreme Court. It was made by a clerk back in the 1800s. And that should be immediately revoked. And once we do that, corporations are no longer entitled to human rights, okay? Like they never should have been entitled to human rights, ever, all right? So the Supreme Court decision did not solve any problem. It will only create problems because it creates an even greater imbalance in the amount of influence corporations have in government affairs. So, you know, what was running through these guys' brains, you know, maybe their own personal portfolios. You know, I don't know what's running through their brains, but they're idiots, you know. Supreme Court, they know a lot about law, but they don't know how the world works, okay? They have no freaking idea what they've just unleashed onto society, okay? And it's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed. If it's not fixed, it's going to bring the system crashing down, all right? So that's all I'm going to say for now.